we're here for. That's what I live for. That's why I come up here to do this. Yes! Yes!
Yes. Thank you, Lord. With the bow, baby. In rifle season, Pennsylvania.
I just got my first eye with the bow.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Relive the Hunt podcast. It is 2019. Sorry we've been gone. I got my co-host Tom Titlow with me, and we had a great season, and excited to be back podcasting.
What up, guys? It's been a while. We've been out there reliving, or no, I'm sorry, we weren't reliving. We're about to relive. We've been living the hunt.
Yeah, we were out living the hunt for the last 3 months, I'd say. Pretty much the entire season.
I think our last podcast was with Greg Goffrey from Tethered Nation. That was back out in September. I think that's the last one we did, and then hunting season started for us.
Yeah, and we did this last year, I think, sort of. We just kind of take off for the hunting season, and then we come back and we do exactly what our name says. We relive the hunts, and we are going to have a banging year for you because Tom shot a buck,
Cole
Tim
shot a
buck,
buck.
I shot a buck, Greg shot a buck, Russ shot a buck, and the list just keeps going. Matt shot a buck in Illinois, and he's still hunting in Pennsylvania, and we got a lead on 2 good buck. So there's a good chance he seals that deal yet.
Yeah, it should be exciting, and we have a lot of great stories ahead of us. It's been, like Cole said, it's been an awesome year, and we'll be happy to relive the hunts with everybody.
Yeah, it's I'm excited to be back podcasting. I got both my kids in bed. It's 8 o'clock at night. This is like the rarest of rare occasions.
That never happens. Usually we're podcasting around 9:30, going into the 11 o'clock at night, and I have to wake up at
earliest,
4 o'clock in the morning every day.
But nonetheless, we are here. We are back. It is 2019. I'm excited for this year. I don't know goals as far as goals go for the podcast. We have a ton of people to get on. It's just finding the time to do it. Tom and I both work different schedules. I got a full family, and it's just hectic. And I know there's no excuses, but this isn't our number one priority. We just like to do this and share it with you guys. So we are going to try our best to get as many as we can out in 2019.
We do have a realistic goal of trying to get 1 podcast per month out. So hopefully 12 for this year. Hopefully we exceed that goal. We have a list of people lined up that we can podcast with that would very well exceed that goal. Hopefully it just comes about and we find the time and we get after it and get it done and get these podcasts out here for you guys to listen to. And we have a lot of cool stories like we were just talking about. And I had just recently come back from the ATA show, met a lot of wonderful people out there that also want to share their stories with us. I was chatting with these guys at the bar and at the show, and and they were showing me pictures, and it's one of a kind how the industry gets together out there, and we can get these guys on our podcast and tell their story, which is going to be enjoyable for this upcoming season for us.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I know one thing I want to do this year is with the guests that we're going to get on. I want to get them on, and I want to specifically jump into detailed stories of their hunts. Bust out 30-minute podcasts, detailed story of their hunt. Some of them most likely are going to run longer. This one tonight most likely will be a longer one. Tom and I will probably recap our seasons a little bit. And, I'm just excited for that. I think if we do that, it'll give you guys a chance to listen to a 30 to 40-minute podcast rather than a 2-hour podcast. And we can keep pumping them out.
Yeah. Yep, that's what we're going to be doing, pumping them out, and looking forward to it. So why don't we jump into, since you shot the first buck out of you
Yeah.
and I. Why don't we recap your season, and we'll tell maybe a shortened story of your season, and we could either come back and relive the detailed version of your hunt, and we'll do the same with mine.
All
We'll
right,
recap
sounds
yours,
good.
and then we'll
A
recap
lot
my
of my
season
friends
and
and family
move on.
know going into the 2018 season, I was after a buck called Blades. We had pictures of him all summer. I had new stands set up. He was all over the place. I was super excited. If you listen to the podcast, we went into that last year a little bit, just how he's still alive. I was chasing him for 3 years. So this buck Blades, who lived on one section of the property that I hunt, and opening day I was in Nashville, Tennessee for a wedding, so I was not home. I got home Sunday night, and I hunted Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the first week of the season, specifically for this buck. I pulled cameras on Tuesday afternoon, and he was all over the place in daylight. I mean, right in front of stands that I had. It was crazy. The first day I hunted all day, sun up to sundown in a bedroom area, which I knew was rare to do that early in the season. But I thought I just had to get in there early because this buck tends to leave the property. Um, that morning, he covered almost the entire property, and that evening, he was 50 yards from one of my tree stands, but not the one I was in. It was
You were playing
crazy. So
cat and
that was
mouse with him
Monday.
all
Tuesday, I check
early
all the
season.
cameras. He was there Saturday, opening day, with like 2 hours left of daylight. So I start making moves. I got aggressive into some points on the property where I snuck in the morning, hunted, brought a tree stand with me so that I could move in closer. I snuck in the evenings to those points. At one point, one hunt that I went on, I snuck in and I saw a spike buck and two doe far away, and I got pictures of Blades 100 yards from me, and he went the wrong way. He went north and I was south. I mean, I was that close to this deer in early season.
Oh my!
Uh,
Your name was all over for that deer. I mean, you had him dead to rights. You knew everything about him, and
I don't know
it
if it was,
was just
yeah, I don't know if
a
it was
matter of a
bad
little bit of
luck or
luck
if
to
he
be on your
was
side.
smart that he knew when I was entering and exiting that area. I mean, I came in from every direction trying to throw him a curveball. And then one time he was right in front of my stand and I was hunting 400 yards away. I was just picking the wrong stands. By the second week, um, some people started moving in around the area, um, hunting public land. And I knew that that's when it put too much pressure on this area of my property, and blades tended to disappear at that point. This is usually the second to the third week of the season, and like clockwork, he's off the cameras. He's nowhere to be seen. I hunted the rest of October, bouncing around stands, hoping, for a chance that he's still around. Just like he did 2 years in a row. He just vanished. I mean, Tom, the story. It's been the same.
Yeah, you could probably go back into one of our podcasts and listen to a story about Blades, and it's almost
Yeah.
identical.
So just like that, 2018 October, um, he's gone, essentially. I don't know. I tried to get my reach farther out than I ever did before, and I just never caught up with that buck. All summer long, I had another buck in the back of my mind that I wanted to hunt that we called Speedy. I have one shed off of this buck that I got permission on a neighboring property and found in 2017. It would have been March of 2017. and I nicknamed him Speedy. My uncle actually gave him that name. Nobody had a shot at him that year. My brother-in-law got close to him in 2017 in fall. And then he was sort of like my dark horse. He was in my back pocket. I knew the area that he hung out. I knew he stuck around in the rut, and I knew Blades would disappear. So when Blades disappeared and the rut started coming, I was going to shift my focus to Speedy. I don't think anything else crazy happened in between there. I passed a couple nice 8 points when I started hunting for Speedy, which I'll get into this now, because I don't think anything really exciting happened before that. I didn't shoot a doe. I didn't pass any other bucks. I literally hunted 4 or 5 straight days for Blades where I didn't see a single deer. I don't know if you remember that, Tom.
I do.
It was crazy.
You were telling me that you lost your mojo.
I totally lost it, and I knew he was
I
going to
was trying to
disappear.
talk you out of it.
I knew he would disappear, but I put in long sits and I didn't see a single deer. It was crazy. I was hunting one buck and I was hunting his area and no deer. So I needed to get my mojo back. My brother-in-law pulled a camera, and this was probably November 4th or 3rd or 4th.
Before you get into that, that's an easy way to burn yourself out too.
Big time.
Where you don't even want to go hunting for any other deer or just hunting in general. You just burn out.
Yeah, I mean, I hunted one specific deer and I didn't see deer, and I was burning myself out. And luckily I took a break in there. Like the last week of October, I hunted Saturday and I didn't hunt during the week. And then I came back in and hunted the next Saturday. And then I didn't hunt during the week. And we'll get to this point now. My brother-in-law pulls a camera sometime at the end of October there. And Speedy was on it quite a bit. He was there in the mornings, he was there in the evenings, and we had 2 stands near this camera. So I was like, come Saturday, November 3rd, I'm going in there. Good idea, that's the plan. I get in there November 3rd. It was an awesome spot, awesome hunt. I saw 3 different good buck, 3.5-year-old 8 points. Nice buck. Got videos of all of them. They weren't within shooting range.
Now, were these bucks that you know? Because I know you know a lot of deer on your property. I'm just not. I can't keep up with how many deer that you know and have names. So, were these bucks that you saw? Were they ones that you were familiar with?
I think I had trail camera pictures of all 3 of them. One of them was, we call him BH, the broadhead buck. We just recently put a video up of him from two years ago.
Yeah, that was with the kind of looked like a hole in his gut.
Yeah, he's got this just mark. I don't know if it looks like a circle or I always thought it looked like a broadhead, so we called him the broadhead buck. Take a look at that video and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
So one of them was him.
My guess is that maybe he got in a fight and somebody gored him there.
Yeah, it very well could have been because there's no exit side to it, so it's weird. But he still has that mark this year. The videos I got of him this year, you can still see the mark. And in a couple trail camera pictures. So we call him BH, broadhead buck. And he was like the biggest of the 3. Actually, no, the other 1.8 was similar. I don't have names for him. He was just a tall, good 2s and 3/8. If he's around next year, he's going to be a looker for sure. Again, none of these buck came within shooting range. My dad shot a doe that day, and I got down at, I think it was like 11:30 or noon, and I actually went and helped my dad look for that doe. And then I came back. I left all my stuff in the tree. I came back to the exact same tree, and I ended up seeing one of those 8s again that night. And then a doe came down right at dark, and I thought about shooting her, but I didn't want to ruin that area my first day in. Well, she got downwind of me as it was dark was closing in, and I saw her start stomping her feet, and she snorted once at me. So I grabbed my rattling antlers and I cracked them as loud as I could, and she was only 15 yards away. I wanted to scare her off before she snorted again, and she bolted out of there when I cracked those antlers together. And I was like, all right, good. I don't think I wrecked the area too much with her smelling me. It's pretty dark. I'm going to pack up and get down. I lower my bow down. I climb out of the tree, and I step onto the ground. And I thought I saw something. I'm on this dirt road. I thought I saw something on this dirt road. So I looked through my binoculars, because as you know, everything gets brighter when you look through binoculars. And I was thinking I could see down this dirt road and see something. Well, I see a stump. And I'm like, okay, never mind. It's not nothing. Well, as soon as I put my binoculars down, I heard a grunt. And I'm like, oh boy, that's a buck. And I pull my binoculars back up, and Speedy is walking right down the dirt road straight at me. And through binoculars at 20 yards, I was like, wow. I was just tongue-tied. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't see him with my naked eye, and there was a big tree between us, and he just stopped and was just staring through me, like through the darkness, because that doe actually was on the other side of me where she left. So he either heard the rattling, or he was 15 minutes behind that doe, or whatever it was. But he's staring at me, and I'm looking through binoculars, and I'm like wondering what to do. If he steps around the tree, he's at like 7 feet from me.
Wow.
But he never did.
It's nerve-wracking.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what time it was, so I didn't know if there was shooting light left. I just knew it was dark in the tree for me to shoot. But anyway, after he turns around, he never comes closer. He turns around and leaves the way he came. So I decided to walk out the opposite way and go a big, huge circle and get out of there. Well, I looked at my phone right after he left, and it was like 2 minutes after shooting. So there's a chance I could have killed that deer if I would have maybe stayed in the stand. But I don't know. I don't think I would have shot either way. It just seemed too...
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough time.
It seemed too dark to me in my mind. Maybe on a field,
Yeah.
you might get some more light, but I'm down at the bottom of the mountain. The sun is behind the mountain already. It's a lot darker in the woods. So that's Saturday, November 3rd. I decide to take Tuesday afternoon and hunt and get in there, and then also hunt Wednesday, I believe it was, if I have my dates right. You probably don't remember any of that, so I don't even know. But
I think you took the whole week off, because I was hunting the whole week.
I don't think I took off Monday for whatever reason, because of weather, I think.
I think Monday rained pretty bad everywhere in Pennsylvania, which
it rained Monday,
wasn't a surprise.
And it stopped on Tuesday, but it stopped early Tuesday morning. And I wanted to get out there when the rain stopped. So yes, that's right. So Tuesday, I get out there when the rain stops. Me and my brother-in-law split the stands. I go to the same stand I was in Saturday. He goes to the closer one. I pull a camera card, and this big, heavy 7-point is on the camera literally like 1 hour before we got there. And we don't have a name for that deer, really, that I know of. Actually, I think Greg might have named him, but I don't remember what it was. And so Tuesday evening comes and goes. I saw a couple doe far, far away. And my brother-in-law saw the same deer. And that was all we saw. So I'm looking back at these pictures of him to make sure that that date's right, because I think it is.
I don't think anybody really cares about the date, Cole.
It's true. It's true. I didn't do anything on Tuesday. All right. Yeah, so that makes sense. So Wednesday, I go in. I'm going into the same stand. I'm going to hunt all day. That's my plan. I don't know why I'm hunting the same stand. Well, I do know why, because after I saw Speedy Saturday, he was there Sunday. He wasn't there Monday. He wasn't there Tuesday. I got to be in there Wednesday, for a crack at him. So I get in there Wednesday, all day hunt. Just that's it. I'm hunting all day. It was a super windy day. I remember it was crappy and windy, and I hunted all day. I had a very nice 8-point, short brow tines, probably 17 inches wide, come right under my tree. I had another 5-point that I rattled, or I actually tree thrashed him in with the thrasher call, which I told you I got. That was the first deer I ever did that with, and I actually have the whole thing on video.
That's pretty cool.
Because it was so windy, I in my mind, I just think the call's really quiet. So anyway, that's my first thought on that. But I did get him to come in, and that's all I used. The actual snapping the stick on that call, if you don't know what it is, check it out, look at it. The snapping of the stick is what brought him in and what really got his attention because it was so windy. So I know nobody cares about the dates, but we're going to backtrack it to Monday and Tuesday.
So I have a quick question about that tree thrasher
Yeah, shoot.
call. So you were just sitting there and using that blindly?
This time I saw the deer. I saw him about, I'd say 80 yards away.
Okay.
And there was a doe or button buck up there with him. And I didn't have a deer at that point. This was before the 8-point. I didn't have a deer come within range of me out of this stand. So I'm like, I need to get this deer in range. I'm going to try to call him in. So I do the thrashing with the leaves, and he hears it like there's a deer walking or something. But it's so windy. I didn't want to make too much movement, and it was tough. Well, then I snapped a stick, part of it, and man, his head snapped and looked right down at me. And then I did it one more time, and he just walked all the way down to me and then right underneath me. It was awesome. It was pretty neat.
Interesting.
And, so this was on Tuesday because the afternoon hunt was on Monday. So that we have that right.
Okay.
Monday the 6th, Tuesday the 7th. No, that's not right either. I lied. It is Tuesday and Wednesday.
Now everybody's confused. What year are we hunting in now?
Oh, I'm an idiot. It is Tuesday and Wednesday. I was looking at
Is it
2019.
2018 still, or are we in 2017?
So forget the date. Oh, Tuesday, afternoon hunt. Wednesday, all day hunt. I have that encounter with the tree thrasher and the 8-point. That same 8-point that afternoon, and that was it. I was kind of like bummed. I'm thinking to myself, I need to change stands. This is what I need to do. I can't hunt this same stand again. This is my 3rd day hunting this stand, and I was going to be off Thursday and Friday. So the rest of the week I could have hunted Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Notoriously, this stand that we call the scrape stand, we've hunted it for probably 7 years now, and nobody has ever killed a buck out of it. I have pictures of Speedy up at that scrape stand in daylight in the 1st and the 2nd week of November last year, 2017. So history repeats itself. I'm going to that stand. It's the rut. It's November. Thursday, November 8th, I'm going to that stand. Made up my mind. It's going to be a clear, cool morning. And my only other option was to go climber in an area that I thought was more of a doe bedding area that I figured he might end up. So Greg's hunting Thursday morning as well. He already shot his buck. We meet up at our cabin, and I don't know about you, Tom, but in November, when I walk into tree stands, it's not like when I walk into a tree stand in October. In November, I dress light, I have a grunt call in my hand, and I just walk. I walk like I'm a deer. I walk, I take extra steps, I stop, I walk again. I don't care how many sticks I'm breaking, I don't care how many leaves I'm crunching. It's too hard to be quiet that time of the year and for me to sneak in and out. So I act like I'm a deer. And if I hear another deer, I'm on the grunt tube and I'm acting like a deer. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but that's how I.
I have never tried it. I I honestly try to get to my stand as quick as I possibly can
It's similar. I mean, that's my
in
quickest route.
November. Yeah.
My quickest route is just to keep walking. And if I hear a deer, I got the grunt tube, I'll grunt and I'll just keep walking. So I don't need to get in my stand super early because, normally it takes me a lot longer to walk when I'm tiptoeing through the woods.
Right.
I hung out at the cabin, got dressed, got ready, ready to go. I drive about 200 yards and then I get out and walk. And Greg's I think he took the longbow out that day, but he's going to the other side of the property. I get to within 70 yards of my stand and I spook a deer. And it kind of just trots off and I'm grunting, grunting, grunting. But then the path to get to my stand, I go up and that deer's going down. So I'm like grunt, 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 turn, go up, and just keep going all the way to my stand. I was like, oh, cool. No deer snorted. I think it worked.
This was in the dark.
This is in the
correct?
pitch dark. Yep. I didn't ever see the deer. I just heard it trot off.
Okay.
And so I get in my stand. It's a brand new setup for me this year. First time in this stand. You got to go through all the ropes. Bow hooks, camera mounts, just everything. Where do you put your backpack? This, that, all that stuff. So this ended up actually getting me kind of mad. It was cracking light as I was still getting everything set up, and I was sweating. I was like getting ticked off. I'm like, God, why do I do this to myself? I bring all this extra gear and camera gear, and I'm just mad. Like it was so easy on Wednesday because I left everything in the stand Tuesday. I literally just walked in and sat down in the stand.
You spoil yourself sometimes.
Yeah, so I get everything set up. My bow arm's kind of in my one shooting lane, and I assess that situation. I leave it there because I can swing it out of the way. Daylight comes, and I hear squirrels all over. Like, it was crazy. I kept hearing squirrels thinking they were deer, and for some reason this morning was worse than others. And the first hour goes by, and I don't even see a deer. Meanwhile, Greg's texting me from the other side of the property, and he's like, there's buck chasing doe over here. I saw 8 or 9 deer already. I'm like, what the heck? Like,
I'm in the wrong spot.
And 7 years we've had this stand here. It's awesome on trail camera, but nobody's ever seen or killed a good buck out of it. So I'm sitting in the stand and I'm like, screw this stand. We never kill anything here. Why am I even hunting here? Like, what am I doing? I hate this stand. I know deer can see me when I'm in here. Like, just everything's going through my head. It was hilarious.
You always think about that stuff when you're pick your spot. You're like, and you guy texts you, I just saw a buck, and you're like, shit, I should have picked a different spot. I do that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So by this time, it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. I decide I have rattling antlers. I forgot this part of the story. I think it was Tuesday. I swapped out my rattling antlers for Speedy's shed that I found. I did this on Tuesday because I wanted to rattle, and if I rattled him in with his sheds, I thought it'd be cool. So I have his rattling antler, one shed, and then I have another shed from another buck. I'm like, I'm going to rattle. It's a nice, cool, just awesome morning for it. The sun is pounding on me for some reason, the way it's rising and the way my stand sits. And I rattle, and not 2 minutes later does this 5-point come that I actually tree thrashed in the other day. The same buck. And he comes in right up the way they're supposed to. I start videotaping, filming him. He gets into my shooting lane at like 10 yards. Like, he's right underneath me. And he looks right up at me and spooks real quick. And I'm like, dang it, that sun is just pounding on my camera arm and my bow and me. I'm like, this is bad. And he doesn't spook bad, but he jumps like 10 feet away like they do when they don't know what they saw, really. And he circles my tree. I'm like, all right, cool. I rattled in that buck. I'm watching him go out, circled my whole tree, goes out in front of me, about 100 yards out, and I finally see him disappear into some thicker stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to rattle again. Maybe that took 15 minutes. It's 8:20 or something like that. I'm going to rattle again, see what happens. I rattle a little harder this time, a little bit longer than I normally do. I was kind of rattling for like 10 seconds straight. I'd stop for 5 seconds, rattle for 15 seconds straight. I was freaking bruising my thumbs and whacking my knuckles because of the Speedy antlers got 2 brow tines on it. And they kept gouging me in the hands. So I'm getting pissed off at that. Finally, I hang the rattling antlers up. I'm like, all right, I got one to come in. Maybe I'll get him to come back. Make some fun out of this morning. I sit down, and about a little longer goes by. Probably 4 to 5 minutes goes by this time. And if any of my story seems messed up, jump in, Tom. But
I can't remember what year or the date we're on.
oh, it's November 8th. It's Thursday. I got that down now.
Yeah, I remember that it was November 8th. I remember that. And I remember that it was Thursday because I remember what I was doing that day.
Were you hunting that day? I don't remember.
I was.
Nice.
I was. I made you call me and I was in my tree stand.
Yes. Everything goes blur after the good stuff happens. But so a couple more minutes went by than when the 5-point came in. And for whatever reason, I remember all the negative thoughts I had that day. The tree stand sucking, sweating, the setup sucking, just all that stuff. And I remember, getting bummed because too much time passed. And I didn't see any deer come into this rattling. Don't I hear something behind me, directly behind my tree? And in the summertime, we actually cleared lanes back over there. Real good lanes. My brother-in-law, Greg, and myself, 2 different times we were in there clearing. And I look back, and we have these artificial leaves up in the tree to try to help break up our silhouettes. And I look back through those leaves, and I see a main beam and some points, like 30 yards away. And my first thought, I didn't realize this until after everything went down, but my first thought was, okay, here's one of these 2 to 3.5-year-old 8-points. And it was hard to look back there, so it was hard to focus. But instantly I stood up, grabbed my bow, and instead of grabbing for my camera, I'm like, well, if he's coming into this lane, let me get my bow hanger out of the way. I'm moving my bow hanger out of the way with my left arm, and I'm looking down at him, and he's 25 yards getting to my lane, and I see the 5th point on his left side. And this buck Speedy is a 5x4, 5 on his left, 4 on his right. And I'm like, that's the only buck up here with 5 points on his left side. And instantly I was like, oh my God, is that Speedy? And he was too close to look through binoculars, but he was just far enough away that it was like hard to see and make out everything. Well, I look at his right side and see the mass that he's got, and I was like, that's him, oh my God. And just as that goes down, he's walking into the shooting lane. And I'm like, okay, now or never. And the whole time he was coming in, he was looking for this other deer, this buck, this fight. Like his head's up, he's on alert, he's looking, and he's walking with his head up.
He was on alert.
He's walking into my lane, and I'm thinking to myself, you got to draw smooth because that sun is still pounding on you. Start drawing back as he's walking into the lane. He's only 20 yards away. And just as I get to full back and anchored, he stops, and he's looking not up at me, but my way. Just as perfect as you can want it. The only thing that wasn't perfect, I didn't have my camera on. And videotaping the hunts is not a priority of mine. I do it just for fun to share with you guys. Um, we've talked about that before in the past, and that's just it.
Yep.
So I'm getting this shot, and if I don't take it now, he gets downwind of me. Who knows what happens? So, bam, all in 10 seconds, this buck came in. I realized it was Speedy. I'm at full draw. He's as perfect as can be broadside. And for the first time in a long time that I can remember, I held my bow and just like I was practicing shooting a target. It was like, all right, your peep sight's good. There's your pin. There's his front leg. Your mid body. Don't get too close to the shoulder. All this stuff went through my mind as I'm at full draw. I'm like, okay, take an extra second here and shoot. Oh, the dogs got excited. The dogs got excited when I did this.
And the hunt was over.
So, well, that's going to mess up the audio pretty bad, but we're going to bear with it. My wife's home.
Yeah. Hey, Tab.
So I'm at full anchor like that, and I was as comfortable as could be, and I shoot, watch that arrow bury right where I wanted it, and he takes off running. I start shaking. I have my bow in my right hand, or my left hand, and I'm watching him through binoculars right away. And he stops running, and he starts walking. And I'm like, oh, man, like, what is going on? And he's walking for
That's never a good sign.
I know, he's walking for 10 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards, 25 yards, and then he stops, and his tail's flicking the whole time. And I'm like watching him through the binoculars. I never took my binoculars off of him, and he gets between these trees and kind of just disappears. I'm like, did he fall over there? Did he run? My wife just brought me a peanut butter cup milkshake.
Oh, man.
Brownie points for her.
Heck yeah.
So he disappears out of my sight, and I'm still looking through binoculars. And I'm like, where did he go? I need to pay attention to what I'm looking at through binoculars, because if you ever follow a deer through binoculars and you put your binoculars down, it's hard to know where you were looking.
Right.
So I'm like, when I pull my binoculars down, I need to pay attention to what I'm looking at here. Like, there's that tree, pull my binoculars down, and I'm like, damn it. I don't know if he was over there. I don't know if he was straight down there. I don't know if he was to the right of that. I'm like, I can't figure out where he was. Well, then everything just starts rushing in. I did turn the camera on for my reaction a little bit. The first thing I do is call my wife. Of course, she doesn't answer. Second thing I do is call my brother, and he doesn't answer. So then I'm like, all right, just enjoy this moment. I start calling people and texting people. I was pretty sure he was down. I get a hold of Greg. Everybody in the group. I probably called you right after Greg. And Greg's ready to jump out of the tree and be done.
You wouldn't call me.
What's that?
Oh,
no, I wouldn't. You're right.
You wouldn't call me because you knew I was out hunting.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly why I didn't call you.
And my text
and then you made me.
You better, very explicit, call me right now.
Yes, that's right. I didn't want to interrupt your hunt because I knew you were hunting.
I could care less at that point.
So, I don't know at this point what happened. I thought I drilled him, and then you start questioning, did you hit him too far back? Well, my arrow looked like it blew right through him, but I couldn't find my arrow. And I'm like, I'm going to sit in my tree for another hour. I'll meet Greg at the cabin. My brother-in-law's coming up. I got all the time in the world. This is 8:30 in the morning. And, I saw a couple other deer, and they were hanging out down around where he was, and they were all acting funny. So I was thinking, A, he's dead, and they see him, or B, he's laying there alive, and they see him. Regardless, I'm like, there's a deer down there for sure. This button buck, I think it was a 5-point came back, and then a spike. and they're all acting kind of funny. So the button buck was down there forever. I end up sneaking out of the tree at like an hour after I shot him, and I snuck right by that button buck at like 30 yards and walked back to my truck into the cabin. And he never looked. He never even lifted his head. I don't know why. He was eating acorns and facing away from me, but he never lifted his head to look at me. Like, hey, he never heard me or never even thought I was there. He had no care in the world.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, cool. I got out of here clean, back to the cabin, shed a bunch of layers, get my stuff ready. Let's drive out to that side of the property and we'll go look for my arrow. I didn't even look for my arrow yet at this point, except for in the tree. I looked with binoculars. We get back to the stand and no arrow. I can't find the arrow. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. It's either buried in the dirt over here or maybe it's still in him. So there's blood within the first 2 or 3 feet. My brother-in-law was pretty confident. Oh yeah, this is good blood, done deal. I'm always a little skeptical, so Greg's filming the recovery, and I start following blood, and it's good blood. I mean, it's awesome. And I get through the thick stuff in the beginning by the stand, and I get out to where the deer started walking, and it opens up, and I'm thinking he should be laying here. And it's open, and I don't see him. I'm like, oh, what the heck? Like, why I should see this deer? Like, this is open woods here.
Right.
And I don't. And so then I tell him, like, forget about it. Just, this blood is good. Follow the blood. Keep following the blood. And
How long has it been since you shot now?
It was 2 hours from
2
when I
hours.
left the cabin to go look for him. It was 2 hours from
Okay.
when I shot. And I go a little bit farther, and it's still open. And it kind of went downhill at this point, and I didn't realize that before. And I see an antler sticking up like 40, 50 yards away. I look through my binoculars, and Greg's videotaping it. You can see my reaction when I see him, and I pick up my binoculars. Well, then he stops filming. so you don't get my reaction of seeing him, but you do get my initial reaction of seeing him. It's funny. And he's dead, down this just little downhill that just gets out of there. And that's where I kind of saw him walk by that tree and go way downhill quick. That's why I thought I saw him fall, but it wasn't him falling. It was just dropping out of sight. And man, I got up to him, and I've never seen a body on a deer that big in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
He was comparable to my one Ohio buck body wise. He was just a huge body buck, and the mass on his antlers at the bases are, they're 6 inches at the bases, 5.5 inches at least.
Yeah, he was massive, man. He was very massive.
I was just completely in shock. I couldn't believe it. I talk about hunting mature deer and all that, and we knew this buck was probably the oldest on the property. I had thought he was the same age as Blades, but it turns out I just got my aging analysis back yesterday from him, and he was 6.5 years old.
Oh, really?
So,
wow.
6.5 years old, living on a mountain. I only knew him for 3 years.
That's impressive.
So it's it blows my mind. Well, we've talked about it, and I don't know that we've ever shot a buck that old on that mountain. And my dad's been hunting there for 30 years or longer. Longer than 30 years.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's the first time you told me that it was you got his aging back. This.
Yeah, you didn't pay attention in the group text apparently.
Probably not.
Because I told you guys last night.
When did it happen?
Just last night. I opened it up last night.
I must have been. I don't know where I was.
So yeah, 6.5 years old. That was just, his body was huge. To describe his body and his mass, you got to look at the pictures. But I field dressed him, and he weighed 216 pounds dressed. So I mean, this deer was
Oh, 216 dressed.
dressed. He was over, I assume, over 250 on the hoof, and
Oh my goodness.
all that just hit me at once when I found this deer, and I couldn't believe it. And we knew he was big on trail camera, but his body actually made him look smaller rack wise. Even though the year before there was times where his body on trail camera made other deer look small. So if I would have been paying attention enough and trusting what I saw, I would have known that his body was really big. And you know, November 8th, 2018, it's a day that's going to be in my mind forever. I'll be sharing this hunt with my family forever, my kids, my grandkids. It's
Nah,
just
that was
I
an
couldn't
awesome
believe
day,
it.
man. I was pumped up. I wanted to get down out of my tree stand and just go back to my cabin and have a beer.
I know. It's too bad we hunt like 3.5 hours away from each other all the time.
Yeah, I know.
But
I was so excited about that. Like you're out in the tree, and November is such a beautiful time of year to be out deer hunting. For mature deer, anything can happen, and I'm up on top of a mountain, and you're out on top of a mountain, and you shoot a freaking stud, man. And I'm like, it's my turn. It's going to happen any minute now because Cole just shot. I'm going to shoot soon
yeah,
too.
that's exactly how it works. It's
You
supposed
know,
to.
like I'm like
Uh,
because it could happen, and then at any minute in November, it happens that way. You
exactly. It's so
Like you
fun.
said, you went from not seeing any deer all morning, getting frustrated. Why am I sitting here? This spot sucks. I should have went somewhere else. I'm an idiot. I'm a loser. Blah 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 blah. Till you shot one of the biggest bucks you ever shot in your life.
Yeah, by far the biggest buck I ever shot in Pennsylvania, and the oldest buck I've ever shot, to my knowledge. I don't have some of the other ones aged, but you do that, and then to have the camaraderie that we have, and the group texting and everything. Matt's out in Illinois chasing monster buck. You're up, upstate Pennsylvania chasing buck. Tim and Greg are tagged out. We're just we're on cloud nine, and all that stuff just adds to it. Being able to share that with each other.
That's the best part, the camaraderie of what we have here with the Relive the Hunt and the guys that are involved with us, and just a group text like you're saying, man. It's just a lot of people don't have that. Like I've had a guy reach out to me this year, wanting to say, hey, can I join your guys group or whatever you guys do, because I don't really hunt with anybody. I hunt on my own. I'm like, yeah, you kind of feel bad, like
Yeah,
this guy's missing. This is a major important part of hunting. The camaraderie. A lot of guys out there hunt on their own, and they miss out on all this.
it's crazy
And
to think about.
wonder how much more they would enjoy what we are doing as sportsmen if they had somebody to share it with.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to do because, I mean, that's how Matt and I met. That's how we became such great friends. And now it's my family's friends with his family, and we talk every day. And it just because he's as hardcore and into hunting whitetails as we are. That's
Yep.
the only reason, we connected and have a friendship that we have now. And then, just today I had a guy tell me, hey, it was cool to hang out last night. I scored a couple bucks last night. His son shot a buck this year. And today he texts me, yeah, it was cool to hang out with some guys that are as crazy and hard up on whitetails as I am. And, that's exactly what it's all about.
Yep.
It's just to meet people that are like that. And, he's a local guy to here too. So I know we're going to be,
There's more out there than that we think there are, but we are a unique breed, if
for
you
sure,
want to call it that, because we live, die, breathe, eat it, and that's just what we do. And people look at us and think we're weird, but
like our
we,
wives.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But we think we're normal as can be.
It is 100% normal for us. And it
Oh
never
yeah,
ends because
nope.
Matt's still out there chasing whitetails. I'm picking up sheds already. We're
I'm
always
just trying
talking
to
about next year. You're
fill a
trying to lay
couple
down dough.
freezer queens, and I cannot get on one.
It's got to happen. You got a week and a half left.
I have to get at least one. One.
Yeah,
I'm just
for sure.
praying for one.
It's gonna happen. I mean, you were close tonight, which is awesome.
I thought I was going to seal the deal tonight. They were just feeding a little too slow my direction, and I just kind of ran out of light. And I, they, I don't know if it actually would have happened. They just she kind of started feeding away from me. I don't know if she picked up on my scent or she just didn't like something. She was just acting funny the whole time.
Can you get any closer?
I all right. Well, when I walked in there, I said I should sit this tree right here, and I was just being a little lazy, and I didn't set my saddle up in that tree because I had a tree I had one prepped already, and I was like,
Okay.
it's close enough here to where I want to be. But if I would have picked the tree that I should have prepped, there would have been a 15-yard shot, done deal.
No, that's always how it works.
Yeah, but I just got to get in there a little earlier and do it. I was running a little late. And I have nobody to blame but myself for any of that. But
Yep.
it
I
was
know we gotta. You're on these dough, and then we are hot on $2 for Matt.
yeah.
We got the
There's
cell camera blowing up with these buck.
that is so neat.
It is. They bed there
It's so neat.
like every day.
I was curious today when you sent in the pic. How did you know to put that trail camera there?
He found the shed to one of those bucks pretty much right there last year. So he's like, I'm gonna pop that camera up in there. It's my cell camera. I don't ever have to go get it again. So he put it in there after he came home from Illinois, and it took a while, but now it's like, I mean, you're getting the
There
pictures. It's crazy.
every day or every other day at least, it seems.
Yep. Sometimes they're bedded there all night. Sometimes the buck is literally bedded in front of the camera all day long. And two of them. There's the one we call 10 and the one we call the 8. The 8's a real 8. The 10, I don't even know how many points it has this year. 8 or 9 or 10 points. But they're both 4.5 or 5.5-year-old buck.
And they're bedding together.
Yeah, they're always there the same day. It's crazy.
I mean, just taking the intelligence from that cell camera picture probably can teach you a lot on what these
Yeah.
deer are doing in just daily routine, what their habits may or may not be, and it's all from one picture, and that's what just the cell cam picture. And it's a great thing to have, a tool.
It's an awesome tool.
Yeah,
And if
great
Matt
tool,
doesn't
that.
kill those deer this year, he's gonna get aggressive on them before the season's up. We got a week and a half left.
Yep.
If he doesn't kill them this year, there's a really great chance he picks up the sheds. I actually found a shed to the 8, like 2 weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago now.
That was
and it was
last
in good.
year.
It was last year's, and I gave it to Matt because he had the match, and he's after this buck. So there's a great chance he finds the sheds, and then he's got so much knowledge on these deer now that he's got to be able to kill them next year. One of them, because they're both there, so they're both
And it
live.
seems to be always late season.
Yes, we actually passed the 8 on video with that recurve when he shot that doe in 2017.
Oh yeah. I remember.
Same buck.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's the same buck, and he's bigger this year by far. And if he doesn't get him early season, we know late season it's going to be like almost a slam dunk. But you can never say that because they still have to make it that long.
He comes in clockwork. It seems like late season.
Yeah. So
that's
what we got.
Never those trail cameras never do deer of antlers their justice ever.
They
I don't think.
And that 8 looks good.
I'm sorry.
That 8 looks really good.
In the trail cam, you're like, he looks good, looks like a solid deer, but then if Matt shoots him, and I hold the antlers in my hand, I'll be like, oh my god, this is way bigger than I expected. That's how
I think he's one of those deer too. Yep, I do.
That's how I feel like I'm gonna look at that deer because I had deer on trail camera this year. Pretty unique looking, and you look at him, you're like, he's okay, he's decent. And then I saw him with my own two eyes, and I'm like, oh my god, that trail camera does not do this deer justice at all.
Yeah, yep.
So
Same
it's
thing with
tough to
Speedy.
say. Yeah.
I didn't think Speedy's rack was that great on trail camera.
When you showed me the pictures of him, I said, "Oh, he's a cool buck. He's a decent buck. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a
But
shooter."
then, I mean, when you hold him in your hand, to me, he's impressive. To people in the Midwest, maybe not, but he's a 6.5-year-old deer, and he's got the mass that goes with it. So,
Hey, man, a 6.5-year-old deer, a mountain deer at that. You shot a pretty impressive deer, my man.
I know, and well, I know it because I know how rare it is. But I wasn't gonna get a deer mounted unless it was something super special, and I mean, he met the mark. I'm getting him shoulder mounted, and I wanted to do just a European mount with my next deer, but I don't know if I'll shoot a deer that old and with that much history again for a while.
No,
I'd like to say I could do a consistency, but I can't.
that's a special buck, man. He deserves to be put on the wall for sure. And it's
We're
tough
wrapping
to be
up on an
consistent.
hour here,
Oh yeah,
so
we
I
could
don't
go all
know
night,
if
man.
you want to get into your hunt or if
We
we
you know
just
what?
want to.
We'll wrap it up, and then maybe we can get together again this week or one night, and
Yeah, I'm
we'll
perfectly good
jump into
with.
my season, and then that way we're not listening to people aren't listening to us ramble on about we're just blowing our own heads up right now. I'm sure you're floating around the room on cloud
uh,
nine.
I love it. I feel like it's November 8th, like it
Oh,
just
it's a
happened again.
beautiful thing. Beautiful
And
thing.
he's sitting right above me. I'm staring at his rack.
So my buddy went and picked up his antlers or his deer head he had mounted last year from our taxidermist, and
Yep.
I just recently gave him the buck I shot this year. And he calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, I got my buck back." He goes, "Dude," he goes, "I saw your buck in there." He goes, "It looks huge." I'm like,
Yes.
It is huge."
That's
He,
right.
he's not that big, but I mean, he was
You
one of
shot
my
a
best
good buck.
bucks. That was the best buck I've shot with my bow,
Yep.
I think.
And you were after that deer that week.
I
So
was.
I mean,
I
it was like it came and you were on him. Oh, one thing I forgot. You know this already, but I'm gonna tell everyone else quick. I was butchering Speedy and getting ready to make some deer jerky, I think it was, and I pulled the tip of a broadhead out of the meat. That
Yeah, that was
somehow we
crazy.
missed. We missed it skinning him and cutting up the meat, but it was frozen in there, and there was a piece of the blade in with it too. And then I start going back at pictures and looking, and he was shot last year in archery season. Not this year. It was a year old. It was 2017. I have a picture near his shoulder where it's real big and like a ball. And then that winter, you can see it's like a scar and his hair's missing. So I'm pretty sure he was shot there by an archery hunter in 2017. So it just goes to show you how much these deer have to go through to survive. Maybe
They're
that's not the
resilient,
first time. That might not be the first time he was shot at or
right?
the closest he came to being shot by a hunter.
Did
It's just
what was I
makes you
gonna
think.
say? Yeah, I was gonna say, did we ever figure out what broadhead type of broadhead that was?
Not for sure, but that one you sent me, I mean, it looks like that tip. Um, but I couldn't tell you for sure. I mean, I've never seen it. If I saw the other broadhead in person, I'd be able to match it up. I still have it, so one day I'll
Okay.
figure it out.
Yeah, that's
Pretty.
the
Just goes to
resiliency of
show you,
deer.
man,
The
what
will
it
to
takes to
live.
get a deer that old. Not only do you have to let them go sometimes, they have to get lucky. They have to outsmart hunters. I rattled him in with his own antler. Like
That's the
that
coolest
shouldn't
part.
happen.
No,
That should not happen.
that should be incorporated into your mount some way somehow.
I'm gonna definitely have the shed with him. I don't know how I'm gonna do it yet, but I will.
You should get him mounted like he's sniffing the ground, but he's actually sniffing his shed.
Sniffing the antler laying on the ground. That would
Yes,
be cool.
it would be.
That would be really cool.
So
I've seen a drawing like that, and I really like that drawing.
yeah, and that's his antler. That's brought him to his demise. He's dead because of that.
I joke that that's why he knew that sound.
He's like,
He's like, I know that
is that my
sound.
old self fighting over there?
Yeah.
That sounds like me 2 years ago.
I always joke that he knew it, and that's what brought him in. I mean, he was on high alert, so
So
he
you
did
found
come
that
into.
shed 2 years ago, correct?
I found that shed 2 years ago, and I found it probably within 200 yards of where I killed him.
So 2 years ago, 200 yards within where you killed him, and
And
that deer
actually,
was
where he
six
came
and a
from.
half years old. So that was a shed off a 4.5-year-old buck.
Yep. And the one
And
thing that gave that away was his base. His base was big,
but
but
when
I
you look
never
at that
really knew
antler,
how old he was. Oh, it's a
yep,
crappy
it's
antler.
a crappy antler. That's what I was just about to say. Like you look at that antler and you're like, ah, yeah, that's a
He
2-year-old all
he
day.
was not a strong genetic buck, and he still isn't.
No,
But he got
he's
that
not.
mass. He got the mass, and that's what makes him so cool to me.
Yeah,
Genetically, he was crap. I mean, even if that was a 3-year-old, that would be junk.
right.
And to be 4, it's like, oh, maybe he was injured before even,
Yeah,
because he
maybe.
always grew funky. He never grew symmetrical. His right side was always goofy looking compared to his left. His left's a beautiful 5-point side.
Maybe that broadhead's 4.5 years old, dude.
Yeah, there's no telling.
you
That's
know,
true. It could be.
it could
Yeah,
be.
he could have got shot more than once. There's no telling. No telling what that
He had a
deer went through
bulletproof shoulder.
in 6 years. And I mean, that just makes me respect these animals so much and makes me appreciate the opportunity I got, because I've been doing this up there on that mountain for a long time. And Blades, I ate, slept, and breathed that deer trying to kill him. I'll break the bad news now for anyone that
Yeah,
doesn't
I was
know.
just gonna say, might as well just get it over with.
I was excited to see Blades make it through archery season, um, but I ended up searching Facebook one day in the unit that I hunt, and I came across a picture that a hunter took, and it was somebody dragging Blades out of the woods. And so I found out that he was shot the first Saturday of rifle season,
And he almost made it.
and
Almost.
he was close. What I don't know what it would have took to make him survive another year. I thought maybe he was smart enough to, but it's a very heavily hunted area, and I kind of knew he was gone. I checked trail cameras after rifle season, and he didn't show up. And I purposely went looking, which is crazy. Social media, Facebook. I was in a Pennsylvania group page looking for a deer that was shot in one area in Pennsylvania. Like, what are the odds?
And you
But
found it.
it took me not even 2 minutes. I just typed in the right management unit, and bam, he was there. I was like, that's him. That's it. That's the end of Blades.
Heart sinking feeling, I'm sure.
Yeah, I had to. Maybe you shouldn't do this, but I had a personal attachment to that deer. I found sheds to him. I passed him. I just everything about it was cool.
Your
I
son told you to shoot that deer.
He did. It's
You
crazy to think
you
about.
asked
It's
Leighton.
bittersweet.
You asked Leighton, I think, 2 years ago, if you
Yep.
should shoot Blades or I think it was BFG.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and everybody's like, shoot BFG, and your son's shoot Blades, Dad.
Yep. It's a bittersweet thing. I really hope the hunter was as excited as a hunter should be for taking that deer. I think he probably was. It was a
I'm
great
sure he
deer.
was. He was a great caliber buck, man.
You know,
He was
Public
impressive.
land, just a stud of a deer. It ended one chapter. I ended a chapter with Speedy.
We actually have
you know,
I think you actually posted a video of
I did,
Blades,
yep. So
so
you
you
guys
guys
can
can
check
check
that
that
out.
out. Yeah.
If you don't follow us on social media and you're just happen to be listening to this podcast,
Start following us on social media.
get on it.
What are
We
you
need
waiting
followers.
for? There's some good
That's what we live
content out there. You're missing out.
for.
Missing out.
But some reason I got Speedy, and it makes it all worth it. I was after
Yeah.
these $2. They're both gone, which is crazy. But chapters have opened up already for other ones.
Oh yeah,
Like it
it's going
was
to be
for
exciting.
everybody.
It's going to be an exciting year.
And you
Before we
never
get,
caught up with your buck, Levi. I mean, I think we talked about that on the podcast. So
oh yeah, Levy.
Levy, yep,
Well,
big Levy.
we should save this for our next one, and make it our point that we'll talk about how my season went, and then what we're after for the upcoming season.
That's a deal. That sounds good.
And we'll leave that as a little teaser for you guys. We'll talk about the buck that I shot. Cole had already mentioned a little bit. We'll talk about bucks that I have seen, that I've talked about, and bucks that are potentially still around.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for reliving my season with me. Check out the pictures. We'll put them up again with the podcast, and it's good to be back. It's 2019. Hope if you guys want to hear more, just keep telling us to podcast, and we'll make it happen. We kind of
shoot us
take
a
off for
message.
hunting season, but now it's shed season, and I'm gonna try to make some more time to podcast. So
Yeah, it's a downtime of year for us, and we're ready to make it happen. Let it roll. Podcast away.
let's do it. We got a lot of guests that want to return, so we got some obligations here.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your night, weekend, whatever you guys are doing. Football season's over for us because the Eagles are out of it, and no other team matters. So
Go Patriots!
Oh no! Oh goodness, we gotta go.
I'm gonna go suck down this milkshake.
All right, man. Have a great night.
Peace out.
See ya.
See ya.